Hey everybody. So we went over everything in class on how to scan stuff on the new big scanner. I think we all decided that we're probably going to stick with this one. So again, it's named the Epson Expression 13000 XL, and I'm using computer station number 9. That's the only one that's hooked up to the scanner, so make sure you're on there. Before you open the scanning software, make sure that you are turning the scanner on and let it warm up. If the top scanning bed is covered by the white mat, you just have to kind of pull it out gently and it should slide out. So now we can go ahead and move into scanning. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my icon. It's called SIlverfast 9. I'm going to click it now. Once you click it should start hopping up and down, and it should open and to this window. And then you can go ahead and click on Start. So now that we're here, we have somebody else's scans from before. So just kind of going over everything again. We want to start scanning with transparency on, negative on, and we want to be in 48-bit HDR RAW. All right. If you want to scan if you're using color film, you should use 48 to 24, and if you're using black and white film, you can use 16 to 8. But because we're going to be scanning it raw and editing ourselves, we're just going to keep it at this, even though we're going to be scanning black and white and color film today. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. It's going to bring up this little menu. We just have to hit OK. All right. Over here, I'm going to change the name to today's date, so 2024-1001. We're going to change our path to our destination folder. Right. I am going to choose a folder on the desktop for now. And we're going to call it All About Medium Format October. And then I'm going to make a new folder that's called Original Scans, or you can call it OS, up to you. And this is where I'm going to save my scans that I'm making today. This is just my preferred method of putting scans in certain folders and just keeping everything organized from the beginning. We're going to hit Open. And we're probably going to want to bump our resolution up, but let's hit pre-scan first. All right. Once you hit pre-scan, it should give you a little status bar down here on the bottom left corner, and it'll tell you what it's scanning at the moment to show us our preview. So now that our preview is done, I'm just going to minimize these other windows because we're not using any of them. I'm going to go ahead and click on our marquee. We should be able to move it. There we go. I should be able to line it up as best as we can. Once you get close, it should give you a nice little preview of what the image is going to look like. To make a new marquee, you should be able to just go outside your old marquee and just kind of draw a rectangle wherever your frame is. Just be mindful of where your lines are, where your edges of your frames are. And then over here, I'm going to do the same thing. I think my frame needs to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to make one more over here. All right. So as you can see, all of our settings have stayed the same. I didn't change my resolution. So I can do that for each one, or if you want to just set it for the first one, then we can set it and it'll be in place for all the other ones. So what I'm going to do is, if you hold Command Delete, it will delete the previous windows and it'll take us back to our original one. If you hit Command Delete on this one, it'll just reset to the original large rectangle that we had. So I'm going to go ahead and slide my quality up, I think 2400. If you want to go bigger, that's okay, but as we saw in class, you start to get into the gigabyte size files once you do that, which is really, really big. I'm going to leave it at this. And then once we make our new marquee, we should be able to replicate those same settings, right? Now that we have that done, right, we can see our file numbers are changing, 2, 3, 4. We're basically good here. All we have to do now is click on batch scan. What I found when clicking batch scan was that when you click it, it's going to bring up this little menu. So if you date it here, it should do it sequentially. So I think we were having a problem in class where we were changing the name here and then it wasn't doing it in order. So I know I just said to do it over there, but I just wanted to show you that this is going to be the actual way that your files are going to be saved. And just be mindful about this custom location, export location. Our path is pictures now instead of what we had chosen. So let's go ahead and find our folder. And we click on desktop, all about medium format, original scans, and then we hit open. So now it's going into this folder right here that we named before. So we can go ahead and export. File matches what we want over here, right? All this stuff can stay the same, but just make sure you're resetting this if you need to. I had a couple instances over the weekend where the scanner would stop in the midway of scanning 12 scans, but then when I went to rescan them, it started with scan number 13 instead of number 3 that I was on. So just make sure you're paying attention to this, and now we can hit export. Once you hit export, it's going to take a few minutes. I think we were timing it in class and it took about 2 minutes to scan, and then we can go ahead and open them in Photoshop afterwards. Alright, so now that our scans have finished, we can see down here, took about 10-ish minutes to do all 4 of them. So if you were to change your resolution to lower it, you could probably get them done a little faster. So here are my scans in my original scans folder, and we can see that these are color and these are black and white. So I'm going to open one of each in Photoshop. I'm going to select both of them using the command key, and I'm going to right click, open with, and then Photoshop. Okay, so we're in Photoshop. We've got this window up. We can just click not now. What I was doing in class, and like I'll show you now, is there's a few steps that I like to do before I start editing anything. So one of them was, if you're on this tool, it's easier to navigate. What we want to do now is go to edit, convert to profile, and then we're going to change our destination space to Adobe RGB, because right now we're an untagged RGB, and for editing, for printing, we want to make sure that we're using this color space. So we're going to hit OK, and that's going to change in just a few seconds. Right here, there we go. So now that we've added our color profile here, what we want to do is go ahead and rotate our image. So I'm going to go ahead and go to image rotation, 180 degrees, and we have some text here, and what we want to do is make sure that we flip it, the image. So we go to image rotation, and flip canvas horizontally. So this is upside down in the image, but here we can see that it says ballpark. That says ketchup, but it's upside down. So once we've done that, then what I like to do is I like to make a copy of this layer. So if we go to layer, new, layer via copy, and then what we can do is unlock this layer, and then this top one, we can invert it. So if we go to image adjustments, invert, we can invert that one. And then what I like to do is I like to select both layers. So we can select both by holding command, make this into a folder, and then we can start editing. One other thing that we can do is go ahead and crop it a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to crop it. And there we've got our crop. Okay, so now what I want to do is open levels. And now that we've opened levels, what we want to do is click on this drop down menu, and this is going to take us into our individual color channels. So I'm going to start with red. What you want to do here is you want to hold Option, and you're going to want to move these two endpoints. So this one that's in the shadows, and then this one that's in the highlights. So we're going to go ahead and hold Option, and then we want to move our shadows slider over until we start to see stuff poking through. And you want to pull off till right before you see anything poking through. Same thing for here. So once the highlights start peeking in, then you got to pull out, and then there we go. We move to our next channel. And then to our blue channel, which is the last one. And there we go. So we've got a nice little edit of an image. One thing that I found that helped is that once you're back into this main RGB menu of levels, you can bring down your midtones a little bit if you need to. I found that I needed to do it more often in black and white film than with color. Next step that we can do is hop into curves. And before we do any manipulation here on this curves line, I like to click on this. If you hover over it, it's a sample in image to set grade point. This allows us to click on something that's neutral, so maybe like my mom's shirt or the baby's shoes, and it'll try and get us some color that is pretty accurate to what the situation looked like. So we kind of have to poke around, and whatever you end up liking, I think I like this one. It's like a nice little warm color. Everything looks right. So I think that looks pretty good to me. What we can also do is, I found that a lot of the scans that have made on this scanner have been a little soft. So what we can do is open our group 1 again, and we can go to layer 1, and then we want to sharpen it a little bit. So to do that, we can go into filter, we can go into sharpen, and then we can go into unsharp mask. And I found that anywhere from 150 to 200 in the amount percentage, and the radius 2.5 usually helps quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and just do 200. I'm just going to type it in, and we will be able to see our how much it's changed once we uncheck preview and then recheck it. So we can see there that it does quite a bit of work to get that detail back. So I'm going to bump this back down to 150, and then I'm just going to uncheck and check. So that detail comes back, and I think it looks much nicer with that little bit of sharpening. So what we can do is just hit OK, and then that's going to be saved in that adjustment layer, or in that image layer. So now that we've done that, I think it looks pretty good. We could go ahead and do some cleaning up of some dust and stuff. So you can click on that layer again, and we can zoom in. And I'm just clicking the space bar and using that to move around on my image. I know I didn't talk about this in class, but if you hit J on the keyboard, or you come over here to the spot healing brush tool, that will allow you to edit any little bits of dust that you might have in here, or like any stray hairs that might be annoying to you. But any dust that you've got that is maybe a pain in the butt, you can go ahead and just click away. Until you're happy. You could spend hours doing this, or you could leave it all alone. Totally up to you. But I will probably go ahead and go into this pretty deep and get whatever pieces of dust are really large out of my view, so it's not distracting for me. But everyone has a preference on this, so do it however you want to do it. But so far, I think that's pretty good. So if we were to just let that go, I'm okay with it. So from here, what we would want to do is go to File, Save As, and we would want to click on our original folder and then make a new folder inside of there that's called PSD. So that can hold all of our edits, and we want to go ahead and click on Format, click on Photoshop so that it saves as a PSD, hit Save. All right, and then once it's done, we can close it out and then continue on from there. But that's basically it. So one difference that I'll show you is with our black and white image, we're gonna do the same thing, all right? We're gonna convert to profile. We're gonna run through those same motions again. So what we want is flip canvas horizontally, and then we want to rotate counterclockwise. We want to do Command J, unlock this, invert this, click here. What we want to do with black and white, because we did scan it in color, what we want to do is make sure that we click on black and white, and then we would want to go to our levels. We can go ahead and crop it again as well. So we've got our crop of our image, and here this is where I found that bumping down these midtones and then pulling up our endpoints helps quite a bit. So if you go too far with this midpoint one and then you want to pull in your shadows a little bit more, you can do that too. But I found that if I pull back, just because we're losing detail in this jacket if we go too far, and we just pull this down, we still keep some of that detail in there, and we get a pretty good mix of contrast in this image. So I think that looks pretty good to me. So I don't know if I'd go too much further than this. There was one thing that I saw. So this cyan line, I think that's from the scanner. So if you have to correct anything that's from the scanner, you would go ahead and do it in your layer 1, and then click on the spot healing brush, and you can go ahead and maybe even select that whole line. So when you're here, if you hit on the brackets, it will make your brush a little bit bigger. So the right bracket will make it bigger, left bracket will make it smaller. And we can go ahead and hold shift, and well, we can see if it does a good job. I think it does a pretty good job. So you can go ahead and keep doing that if you want. You can honestly just leave it alone. Once it goes into black and white, then you can't really see it, and then we should be able to fix it a little bit easier there since it's not in color. Alright, and then you can go in and do the same thing. So, I mean, looks pretty good. It's a little bit there, a little missed some things, but we can always go back and fix that. But I think that's pretty good in terms of what I'm looking for. So basically the same steps for black and white film. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any questions on how to use any of the Photoshop stuff, then let me know. I know I didn't go too deep into it, but usually these two are the biggest ones that I'm going to be using. If we're using color, I might hop in and do some other stuff in here, but I think this is pretty good. So yeah, that's it for me. Let me know if you need anything else. All right, thanks. See you later.